Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Fox and let's talk about the duodenum. In this video, we'll describe the features, parts, relationships, blood supply, and innervation of the duodenum. The duodenum, or duodenum, arose by another name, am I right, is the proximal part of the small intestine, which consists of the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The duodenum receives chyme from the stomach. It also receives secretions from both the liver and the pancreas, and as such, it is a major site of chemical digestion, as well as absorption. Now, there are four parts to the duodenum: a superior part, a descending part, an inferior part, and an ascending part. The ascending part is going to send that chyme to the jejunum. So let's look at the first part, or the superior part, or the horizontal part. They're all the same. That first part is at the level of the first lumbar vertebrae. It's also an anatomical plane known as the transpyloric plane because it travels along the pyloric part of the stomach. And it is from that pyloric part that that first part of the duodenum is receiving chyme from. What's interesting about this part is that it is a transition from the first part being intraperitoneal to secondarily retroperitoneal. So it is going to be behind the peritoneum, but because the duodenum fuses to that posterior body wall. So the stomach is intraperitoneal. The first few centimeters of the first part is intraperitoneal, and then it transforms into retroperitoneal. And the remainder of the duodenum is going to be retroperitoneum as well until we get to that ascending part where it's going to transition back into intraperitoneal. Now, the first part of the duodenum is going to be remarkably smooth throughout its mucosa. There are no circular folds, which are the hallmark of the second and third parts of the duodenum. Those are known as plici circulares. The second part, or the descending or vertical part of the duodenum, descends from the L1 level down to about the L3 level. It is entirely secondarily retroperitoneal, and it is rich with circular folds, or plici circulares. It's also in this second part of the duodenum that we have the duodenal papillae. So there is a major duodenal papilla, which receives the hepatopancreatic ampulla. So we have both bile from the biliary pathway and pancreatic juice from the pancreas secreted there, which is the transition between foregut and midgut. And there's also a minor duodenal papilla, which can sometimes host an accessory duct from the pancreas, specifically from the head of the pancreas. So we should emphasize, with this major duodenal papilla comes our transition, everything proximal to which is foregut, everything distal to which, until we get to the hindgut, is midgut. The third part of the duodenum, or the inferior or horizontal part, is at about the L3 level. It also is secondarily retroperitoneal and rich with circular folds. It is crossed by some major abdominal vasculature. So we have the superior mesenteric vein here, which is anterior, and its counterpart, the superior mesenteric artery, that cross over that third part, up also behind the neck of the pancreas as well. You'll notice that the duodenum really snuggles the head and neck of the pancreas. And the remainder of it, the body of the pancreas, we find posterior to the stomach, as we'll see. The fourth part is not as exciting as some of the other parts. It is largely secondarily retroperitoneal, and it is suspended by a suspensory ligament of the duodenum, also known as the suspensory ligament of Treitz. And that holds that transition, or the duodenojejunal flexure, which is there, we can see. And from the duodenum, we move into the jejunum, which is a intraperitoneal organ. Now, the blood supply of the duodenum is also very complex, but we'll take a look at this from a 10,000-foot view. The three major sources of blood that we get are the gastroduodenal artery. Gastroduodenal artery is coming from the common hepatic artery there, and it descends down and it's sending branches to the duodenum as well as to the pancreas. And then there's the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. That inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery is a branch of the superior mesenteric artery, which supplies both the duodenum and the pancreas, and oftentimes branches off of the SMA, the jejunal arteries that more or less supply the jejunum there, can also supply blood to the distal duodenum. But the major blood supplies are the gastroduodenal and the inferior pancreaticoduodenal. Innervation of the duodenum is a little more complex than what precedes it. So we have the celiac plexus, which you'll recall has inputs from the thoracic splanchnic nerves, that's the sympathetic, as well as the posterior vagal trunk, that's the parasympathetic, but it also has inputs from the superior mesenteric ganglion and plexus, because as you recall, we have blood supply to the duodenum from both the celiac trunk via the gastroduodenal and the superior mesenteric artery via the inferior pancreaticoduodenal. So as such, we have two perivascular plexuses serving this. We'll still have referred pain to the epigastric region, so just below the sternum at the xiphoid process and where the margins of your ribs are coming together. Parasympathetic stimuli leads to an increased motility of the duodenal contents as well as vasodilation of the vessels serving the duodenum. A sympathetic response, that fight or flight response, will lead to decreased duodenal motility as well as vasoconstriction of the arteries which serve the duodenum. So we've discussed the duodenum, its features, parts, relationships, blood supply, innervation, and referred pain. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you later.